What makes a good luxury dive watch? Today we're going to take a look at 3 watches considered to be luxury dive watches. The Omega Planet Ocean, the Seiko SBDC061, and the Panerai Luminor Marina PAM 296. Basically, all 3 of these watches are very similar in size, 44 millimeters for both the Seiko and the Panerai, and the Omega is 45.5 millimeters. All 3 watches have sapphire crystals, really nice bracelets that have milled end links and milled clasps, solid bracelets that are very well finished. All 3 have very legible dials with really good luminous paint. All 3 have screwed in crowns. The Panerai has its proprietary locking system, which works very similar to a screwed in crown. All 3 of them have very good movements. The Panerai has a Valjoux 7750, the 6R15 for the Seiko, and the 8500 for the Omega, which is the coaxial George Daniel designed escapement. ETA movement really for the Panerai and the Omega. Seiko is in-house, but arguably not as good as the other 2 movements here. Other than that, their depth rating, this is 300 at the on the Panerai, 200 on the 200 meters on the Seiko, and 600 meters on the Omega. So what makes these luxury dive watches, besides these really, really good specs? It's also the fact that these companies have been making dive watches for a very long time. All 3 of these watch companies could trace their roots back to the 1800s. Not all of them have been making watches continually since then, and especially not dive watches. However, these are 3 very iconic watches, and arguably I would say the Panerai, which calls for the highest price out of the 3, also it's titanium, is the most iconic. And then I would say the Omega Planet Ocean, which really pulls a lot of its design cues from watches of its history. And you could see when you look at these watches and you hold them in your hand, the finishing is impeccable. Really, really beautiful finishing on these watches. And I wear these watches a lot, and they hold up. You know, just really beautiful watches. And when you're wearing either the Omega or the Panerai, it's very recognizable on the wrist. People know what the Panerai is. Very similar to wearing a Rolex. People know that you're wearing a Panerai. People know that you're wearing an Omega. And the Seiko, a little bit less. And when people see that you're wearing a Seiko, they may not know that this is a really nice dive watch. Obviously not as expensive as the other 2, but a really well-made dive watch. I've had problems with it, but it's definitely, I would consider it a luxury dive watch. The feel of the watch is definitely a luxury watch. So what makes them luxury watches? I think it's the specs that I mentioned, the fact that they're really good tool watches, they're really purpose-built watches. I think what it comes down to is that people buy the brand. And these are very iconic watches, but most people who buy these watches don't go diving. And that's the point. So I believe it's the specs, the combination of the actual ability of the watch, but it also has to do with the history and the look, the iconic look of the dive watch. A recognizable dive watch is something that is desirable in today's watch community. Anyway, please like, subscribe, and tell me what you think about these 3 watches, or any luxury dive watch. I really appreciate it. Again, please like, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you get a notification when I release videos. Thank you.